They say love is blind, but in New York's elite circles, love is a blindfold. Sarah thought she had married the perfect man, that the man smiling in her bed was weaving the web that could end her life. Sarah, a wealthy heiress, inherited a tech empire after her parents' mysterious deaths. Soon after, she met David, a man too charming, too supportive, too perfect. He stayed by her side through grief, whispering words of comfort and devotion. Their wedding was a private affair on a cliffside villa in Italy, seemingly straight out of a fairy tale. But the fairy tale began to rot almost immediately. In their secluded mansion, Sarah heard footsteps in the attic at night. Jewelry vanished. She felt eyes on her whenever she slept. David dismissed her fears, blaming her fragile mental state, and began giving her pills that blurred her perception of reality. The truth revealed itself in the library. Sarah discovered a hidden room filled not with old books, but passports, each bearing David's face under a different name. Newspaper clippings lined the walls, detailing the mysterious deaths or disappearances of 3 other wealthy women who had married him. David was no husband. He was a predator, a black widow killer who married for inheritance and disposed of his wives. The climax came on a foggy night. David, realizing Sarah had uncovered the truth, cornered her on the balcony, his calm voice carrying an icy menace. "I didn't want it to end as soon, Sarah. But you just couldn't stop looking, could you?" As he lunged, Sarah moved with impossible speed. The pills? She hadn't been taking them, she had been faking it all along. Her father, anticipating danger, had secretly hired a private security team to watch over her. David fell into the trap. Sarah whispered, "My father didn't just leave me money, David. He left me a private army." David's crimes were exposed worldwide. Sarah sold the mansion and vanished from the public eye. But she never again saw a perfect smile without suspicion. Sometimes the one lying next to you isn't just a lover. They're digging your grave. Even after David's capture, Sarah couldn't shake the shadows that clung to her. She returned to a penthouse in Manhattan, but the city's bright lights felt hollow, and every passing stranger's smile seemed calculated, hiding intent. She became hyper-aware of every glance, every whisper, every movement around her. Trust was no longer a luxury, it was a weapon she had to wield. But then came the letters, plain envelopes, no return address. Each contained a single sentence. "You saw the web, but did you see the spider?" At first, she assumed they were a twisted game by one of David's associates. But soon the letters escalated. Photos of her daily routine, receipts of purchases she hadn't made, shadows lurking in the corners of familiar streets. Someone was watching. Someone who knew everything about her life, intimate details. Only David would have known. Her private security team scoured the city, tracing every digital and physical clue, but the watcher left no trace. Sarah realized that David had been just the first thread. The real predator was still out there, weaving a far more dangerous web, and she had walked right into it. That night, in her high-rise apartment, she looked out over the city lights, heart pounding. She wasn't just a target anymore, she was bait. And someone powerful, someone patient, was ready to strike. "They say the most dangerous people hide in plain sight," she whispered to herself. "I have learned the hard way that sometimes even love comes with fangs." Days turned into sleepless nights. Sarah moved cautiously through her own apartment, checking locks, cameras, and windows. Every ring of her phone made her jump. Every unexpected knock made her freeze. The city she once loved now felt like a labyrinth designed to trap her. Then, a video arrived. No sender, just a file named "Watch Closely." On the screen was footage of her entering a cafe, talking to a friend, footage she hadn't noticed anyone taking. But it wasn't just surveillance. It was personalized. Someone had captured her smallest gestures, her nervous tics, even the way she sipped coffee. Sarah realized this wasn't about money anymore. It was about control. David had been just the apprentice. The real master was still free, watching, learning, planning. Determined not to become a victim again, she began tracing digital footprints, hacking into networks, connecting obscure dots. Every discovery brought a new chill. Every trail led back to someone who had anticipated her every move. The predator wasn't just clever, they were always one step ahead. And then came the first message with a name. "We've been expecting you, Sarah Sterling." It was the first sign that this was no random stalker. This was someone who knew exactly who she was, and exactly what she feared most. As she stared at the dark skyline of Manhattan, a cold realization settled over her. Escaping David had been easy. Surviving the real threat would require something far more dangerous, outsmarting a mind that thrived on fear, shadows, and secrets. Sarah clenched her fists. "If he wants a game," she whispered, "then I'll play, but on my terms." Sarah didn't sleep that night. She set up her apartment like a fortress: cameras, alarms, motion sensors. But she knew technology could only do so much. The real weapon would be her mind. She started retracing David's steps, looking for patterns, connections, anything that could point to who had been orchestrating the shadows around her. Names, numbers, hidden accounts, all tiny threads in a much larger web. Whoever this was, they weren't just targeting her. They were playing a game that had been years in the making. Then the knock came. Not at her door this time. Her apartment security system had caught it. A delivery box sat on the landing with no sender. Inside was a small, intricately carved spider figurine and a note. "The web has begun. Are you ready to move?" Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. This was no longer about survival. It was about the next move in a deadly chess game. She realized that someone had been watching her for months, maybe years, learning her fears, her routines, her every weakness. But fear was no longer her master. She had survived David. Now it was time to turn the tables. She would track the hunter, uncover the spider behind the web, and take control before the trap could close. And somewhere, in the dark corners of the city, the predators smiled, unaware that their prey had just become the hunter. Sarah knew she couldn't wait for the predator to make the next move. She began digging into every detail of David's past, searching for clues he may have left behind. Every photo, every transaction, every social media post, she turned them into pieces of a puzzle. It was in a forgotten corner of David's old email account that she found it, a name that recurred across multiple documents, a shadowy figure he always referenced as the Master. Whoever this was, they had trained David, controlled him, and now had set their sights on her. Her heart pounded as she realized the truth. She wasn't just facing a stalker. She was confronting a network of predators, meticulous and patient, who thrived on fear. And they had underestimated her. Sarah started leaving false trails, planting digital breadcrumbs to lure the shadow out. Every move she made was calculated. Every message she sent was a trap. She had learned that surviving was no longer enough. She needed to hunt to force the predator to reveal themselves. And then, a chilling message appeared on her secure line. "Clever girl, but the web has eyes everywhere." Sarah smiled faintly, the fire in her eyes brighter than ever. "Then let's see who truly controls the web." Sarah moved like a shadow herself, blending into the city she once feared. She rented a nondescript loft and filled it with screens, tracking signals, cameras, and encrypted lines. Every step she took was calculated, every person she met a potential pawn. She started sending deliberate signals, leaving digital clues she knew the master would notice. Each clue led to a different location, each message a lure. Her heart raced, not from fear but anticipation. She had learned from David the predator's arrogance was their weakness. One evening, she received an invitation, a simple text: "Come alone. Midnight, Pier 47. Sarah knew it was a trap, but she would turn it into her own. She armed herself with evidence, backup devices, and a carefully designed plan. For the first time, she felt the thrill of taking control. As the fog rolled off the Hudson River, she stepped onto the pier. Shadows stretched across the water. From the darkness, the figure emerged, a tall, calm presence, eyes glinting with cold amusement. "So, the little heiress thinks she can play with spiders," the figure said, voice smooth and menacing. "I don't play," Sarah replied, her voice steady. "I hunt." The night had begun, and Sarah was no longer the prey. The hunter had arrived. But in this deadly game, the shadows had shifted, and one misstep could cost everything. The figure stepped closer, and the dim light revealed a face Sarah would never forget. Sharp, calculating, and chillingly familiar. "Do you really think surviving David made you ready for me?" the shadow asked, voice like ice. Sarah's pulse raced, but she didn't flinch. "I've learned enough. I know your patterns. I know your moves. Tonight it ends." The master chuckled softly. "And, my dear, this is just the beginning.